I'm sure that many of us have a favorite person out of the Bible. Hopefully for all of us, Jesus would be number one. And probably for most of us, Mary, the mother of Jesus, would be number two. And then your third favorite Bible person could be anyone. My third favorite is John the Baptist. But number four is Peter, the head of the apostles. He's such an interesting individual. He was the spokesman for the 12, and sometimes he blurted things out for which he later had to apologize. He said, "I love Jesus, I'll always be with you." Then he denied him. Then he came back and followed him. It's a very interesting person, as we hear in today's gospel. But first of all, imagine yourself 2,000 years ago. You know nothing about the Mass, you know nothing about the Eucharist, you've never heard of these things, and someone is saying to you, "You're going to eat my flesh and drink my blood." Now, doesn't that sound rather cannibalistic? Can you blame people for leaving Jesus? Well, we thought he was the Messiah, this man from Nazareth, but when he's talking about eating flesh and drinking blood, that's just too much for us. And so they walked away. And Jesus gave that option to the 12 who stayed there. You too can leave. Go back to fishing. Go back to tax collecting. And Peter again spoke so dynamically. "Master, to whom else should we go? You're the only God we know. You're the only Messiah we've ever met. We've seen you work those miracles. We'll stay with you even if we don't understand what you just said." Well, maybe in our lives, there have been times when you've been mad at God. Maybe you wanted to quit God or leave the church. Maybe something happened to you unexpected, the death of someone you love very unexpectedly, the end of a marriage, financial ruin, doctor giving you a terrible prognosis. And maybe at those times you wanted to quit God or leave the church. We are in a terrible time right now here in the United States with the revelations that came out from the Pennsylvania grand jury. And because of that, many people will be leaving the Catholic Church. I would hope no one would give up their faith in God. Of course, I hope no one really leaves the church. The church is bigger than 300 individuals who did wrong. God promised, Jesus promised, this church will last forever, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. To address this issue, Bishop Thomas has mandated that every parish read this letter at every Mass this weekend. Dear friends in Christ, last week's scathing grand jury report detailed graphic accounts of sexual abuse involving 300 priests and over 1,000 victim survivors in the state of Pennsylvania. The grand jury findings described in horrific detail not only the abuse afflicted upon innocent children and youth by predatory clergy, but also unmasked a decades-long pattern of protection, obfuscation, secrecy, and concealment by bishops and church authorities aware of this criminal behavior. This willful negligence further victimized innocent and vulnerable children and youth, not only in Pennsylvania, but in dioceses across the land. These revelations have been the cause of embarrassment and disbelief for all of us in the church. The report has unleashed a torrent of righteous anger and outrage directed at bishops and diocesan officials, where these patterns of negligence, denial, and obfuscation were tragically a way of doing business. The president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, Cardinal Daniel N. DiNardo, described the present moment as a moral catastrophe visited upon our communities, largely caused by the failure and negligence of Episcopal leadership. Such wholesale dereliction on the part of diocesan leadership requires acknowledgement, accountability, and atonement. In the name of the church, I offer a humble apology to all of you in my own name and on behalf of my brother bishops, also recognizing that words alone are not enough. This apology is coupled with firm resolve that our own Diocese of Las Vegas will continue to enforce its existing policies and practices that help ensure a safe and healthy environment for our children and youth. To that end, I underscore and reaffirm our commitment to the following. There will continue to be zero tolerance for anyone against whom there is a credible allegation of sexual abuse of a minor, and a prohibition against any service in any capacity within the Diocese of Las Vegas. Every complaint of child sexual abuse will be immediately reported to local law enforcement officials for its investigation, with the full backing and cooperation of the Diocese of Las Vegas. The diocese will continue to rely on the wisdom and direction of the existing Oversight Review Board, whose membership includes our former retired district attorney, an individual who served on the Nevada State Board of Nursing, a person who served 3 years on a federal grand jury, an attorney who does not represent the Diocese of Las Vegas, and a pastor. We will continue to require criminal background checks and fingerprinting processed through both the state of Nevada and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a practice that exceeds standards established by the Dallas Charter for all persons, paid or volunteer, serving in any capacity in the diocese. And in the name of transparency, I am further proposing to the Oversight Review Board that we publish the names of those priests who have had past credible complaints of sexual abuse against minors. In recent days, I've been encouraged by the leadership of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops for formulating policies and processes to hold bishops to the highest standards of transparency and accountability. These goals, according to Conference President Cardinal DiNardo, will be pursued according to 3 criterion: proper independence, sufficient authority, and substantial leadership by the laity. The proposed policy will ultimately require the approval of Pope Francis. This motion is the first of its kind and, in my opinion, long overdue. It will be presented to the full body of bishops at the Baltimore Assembly in November. It will have my full and unqualified support. While these revelations are tragic and distressing, they also provide an opportunity to further purify and strengthen the Church, heal its gaping wounds, create new accountability, bring an end to secrecy and concealment, and further protect the precious children and youth of our community. Finally, it is important that we do not permit this crisis to overshadow the Church's mission and ministry work that I have repeatedly observed firsthand during my short tenure in this vibrant community. I ask for God's abundant blessings upon you and your families, and for special blessings upon all victim survivors of sexual abuse. I also humbly request your prayers during these difficult and trying days. We will not let darkness and shadows conceal the Son of God. Working together, we can emerge a stronger, more transparent church and move forward into a future full of hope. Sincerely yours in Christ, George Leo Thomas, Bishop of Las Vegas.